Greetings and hello again. Once again, I am Squancho the Monkey Boy, dear friend of Sir Ballsfart, here to read another chapter from Sir Ballsfart's debut novel, Sir Ballsfart and the Forest of Penises. Now, after reading the previous chapter, I realized that it may seem necessary to offer what is called a trigger warning. And so I would like to start with a trigger warning, warning anyone who is triggered by anything at all. You will probably be offended by this story. So, without further ado, I continue on to Chapter 2, entitled, How the Fuck Do I Cross This River? I continued scratching my chin. How the fuck do I cross this river? I asked myself this question again and again while scratching my chin, but it didn't seem to be helping. First off, no, I could not simply knock over one of those giant boners and use it like a bridge. Of course, I fucking thought of that, but the river was far too wide. Though maybe someone else had already built a bridge? There had to be one around here somewhere, right? Well, as I thought about that, I soon realized that no, actually, someone probably hadn't. There weren't really any footpaths through this forest, at least none that I'd seen so far, and mermaids didn't have much use for bridges. I stopped scratching my chin. Enough thinking, I thought. It was time for action. I got back down on all fours, did several manly tactical rolls, and then crawled back out of range. Once at a safe distance, I looked back up at the sky. The sun would be setting in just a few short hours, meaning that I didn't have long before I would need to start assembling my camp. So far, I had covered nowhere near the amount of ground that I intended to, due mostly to the fact that I needed to hack down so many baloney poles. At the very least, I wanted to get on the other side of that river before I could call it a day. I deliberated upon this issue for a few more seconds before accepting that my best option was heading southward along the river to see what I might find. For 2 boring hours I marched, grateful at least to be moving more quickly. Though trees thicken near water, dicks tend to shrink, and the dicks that I found at this point were much easier to walk around. As I pressed onward, nothing of particular importance occurred besides me getting shit on twice by a couple of those godforsaken diarrhea birds, though, in my defense, I did successfully shoot down the second one, bagging it as a nice little revenge snack for later. I continued marching, staying always within view of the river's winding curves, until finally my eyes befell upon a sight most fortuitous. One ginormous wooden bridge. Even at this distance, I could tell that it was insanely massive, and as I approached, I soon realized that it was far more than just any regular covered bridge. No, this was a colossal wooden temple, straddling the river at one of its widest points. Such a temple could, of course, mean only one thing: kappas. Have you ever heard of kappas? They're kind of like turtle people, but I assure you that whatever you're imagining, it's not nearly creepy enough. They've got long webbed fingers, each with weird little claws, and their goofy turtle faces have these nasty beak snouts for mouths. Their most notable feature, aside from the big shells and green skin, is the top of their heads, which have a ring of long, stringy hairs surrounding a big caved-in dent at the crown of their skulls. Yeah, let me repeat that last part because I don't know if you really heard me there. These turtle people have fucking craters where their brains should be. And even more fucked up than that, within these head bowls, kappas like to store fluid. I don't know what fluid it is, and I have no clue as to why they would keep it there, but they are all about it, and they definitely don't like to let their gross head juice spill out either. That's why they always walk around with eerily perfect posture, keeping their brain soup absolutely level, even when they're bowing, which they do all the goddamn time. And as if all that wasn't nearly shit enough, most of them are permanent nudists, meaning that they force you to look at their weird little turtle dicks while they're already grossing you out with everything else. So needless to say, just being within their presence is a pretty shitty time. Oh, and one last thing. These fuckers are deeply religious. Yeah, that's literally the worst part of all. They're real into some deep mystical bullshit, and they're always going on about it. I think that's why they make those big bridge temples, like it's a metaphor for bridging things together or some shit. Whatever. I never really cared to pay attention to what the missionaries were rambling on about. I was always too creeped out by those head bowls and turtle dicks. Now, obviously, if there were any option available to me that didn't involve dealing with these creeps, I certainly would have taken it. But I was running out of time and needed to cross this stupid river now because there probably wouldn't be another bridge before nightfall. So, reluctantly, I drew my sword and approached the temple with the utmost vigilance, more than ready to chop down the first greenish fuckhead that wanted to start some shit. As I approached, I found the temple's single entrance to be closed, with two Kappas sitting crisscross applesauce before the doorway, each meditating quietly. Hi, I asked, not sure if I should just barge on in and start killing people or not. Neither of the Kappas opened their eyes, but the one on the left began speaking. Well met, traveller. We see that you arrive upon our shores and our doors. What joins us together at this junction in our spiritual journeys? I need to cross the river. Of course you do. Don't we all, brother? Look, tug fucker. I don't have time for your philosophical dog shit. Just tell me, is there a cost to use this bridge of yours or not? Yes, there is a cost. And how much is that? It requires a sacrifice. A sacrifice of what? Your ignorance. Fuck you. You may enter, traveller. I shoved myself through the door, entering into a dark wooden chamber. Before me stood about 20 Kappas, each going about their daily routines, sweeping, cooking, lighting candles, and so on. Though a couple of these Kappas wore ceremonial robes, most of them were nude, their weird little turtle dicks just slapping from thigh to thigh as they walked. I breathed in the musty air, heavy with the stench of burning incense, and began charging through the hall. As I made my way, I noticed that any Kappas that crossed my path would pause for a moment and then do a goofy little bow without losing his head juice. I guessed that they were greeting me, but none of them ever spoke. They just did that weird little bow, tried not to slosh around their fluid, and then quietly walked away. When the first couple did this, I of course told them to go chew their own dicks off. But after that, I quit paying them any attention, focusing instead upon getting to the door on the opposite wall. Once I arrived there, I found that this door was locked. Fuck. Of course it was. I tried a second door, further down on the same wall, but the situation was the same. Stupid fucking Kappas with their stupid fucking doors. I approached one of the wrinkly old ones. He was on hands and knees in his ceremonial robe, praying before a shrine of glittering red bullshit. Hey, turtle, get me through this fucking door. I am sorry, traveller, said the Kappa without opening his eyes or turning around, but only you hold the power to bridge that gap. Fuck you! I hope someone shits in your skull. I returned to the door and then punched it as hard as I could. It was strong and it didn't break, but my armoured fists definitely cracked into its dark wooden surface. I looked around. All of this temple was made of that same heavy pitched wood. It was steady stuff, but I knew that if I just kept on punching, I could eventually break through it. So that's what I did. I just kept punching it, each of my punches rattling the entire chamber and gaining the attention of everyone in the room. That's when that robed asshole tapped me on the shoulder. I meant to say that only you could bridge the gap with this key. The Kappa held aloft a small glimmering trinket, which he then placed into the keyhole, unlocking the door. Well met, traveller, he said as I pushed through the passageway, completely ignoring him. This doorway led into a narrow hall, which terminated at a set of stairs. Up through the stairwell I climbed until I found myself exiting into an open rooftop area. I took a deep and hearty breath from the wild, fresh air, having finally escaped the Kappa's choking incense. Across the long wooden railing, I could see most of the roaring river far below, as well as countless mermaid silhouettes passing by like fishy ghosts beneath the surface. I hocked a loogie at these before turning to survey the rooftop. All around me were more of those stupid Kappas, each again working busily. There were about 30 of them here, and they all seemed to be attending to 3 long rows of edible crops. These included cucumbers, eggplants, and other exclusively dick-shaped vegetables. Though I found this odd at first, I quickly brushed it from my mind. Intent only on crossing the bridge, I marched past the Kappas and their stupid gardens, again ignoring their lame-ass greetings as I strolled. Upon making my way to the other end of the floor, I reached another door, though again, this door was locked. Fuck my tits! What was up with all the locking? I turned around and searched for another robed Kappa that could get me through this obnoxious fucking ordeal. Hey, Turtle, why are you locking all these doors, huh? What if you guys have to piss or something? Wait, you guys just piss in each other's heads, don't you? I fucking knew it. Don't even answer that. Just open the goddamn door. Well met, traveller, said the nearest robed Kappa, who seemed exceptionally ancient even by elderly Kappa standards. Our locks are put in place so that we might not be distracted from the task at hand. For the path ahead is always distracting us, traveller, as all of life is merely a journey, a passage from one end to the other, and shut your hole, Turtle! I just need to know if you have the key. I've got to cross this river before nightfall. I'm sorry, traveller, but that is not how this works. Not how what works? You want gold? Or do you want me to beat your fucking face in? Because I'm crossing this river, bullshit or not. We desire not the gold that you speak of, but your challenge of violent competition may prove more than acceptable for our purposes. I unsheathed my sword. I don't know what that means, but if it means what I think it probably means, then that means that you are turbo fucked here, Turtle. No, not like that. Here. The Kappa pulled out a key and unlocked the door. Let me show you. Bitterly, I followed the gross, elderly turtle man down a spiral flight of steps, descending cautiously back into the dark and stinky depths of the temple. You see, traveller, there are many stages to this bridge, and I understand that you want to pass through all of them quickly, but that is not an easy task. There are rules in place inhibiting such behaviour, but you have said that you are willing to resort to violence for your goal, and luckily for you, certain rules accommodate such an approach. What the fuck are you talking about? In order for us to begin, the rules state that we must first travel to the deepest level, both within the temple and within ourselves. The Kappa stepped briefly into a populated chamber before making an odd hand signal towards a pair of naked underlings. Come. The gross elderly turtle man then unlocked another heavy wooden door, which led once again to yet another set of stairs, and we traversed these steps down to the very bottom of the bridge. Finally, at the lowest floor of the temple, the Kappa opened one final door, which was unlocked, and I was surprised to find daylight shining from the other side. My guide then stepped out into the light, and before me now stretched a lane of wooden steps, each suspended by ropes like a rope bridge staircase, which terminated at a circular platform hanging about 10 feet above the roaring waters. Wait a second. What the fuck is going on? Come, join me in the centre. The old Kappa stepped down onto the suspended platform. Are you fucking kidding me? Hell no. Those waters are teeming with mermaids. If we get too close, they'll hop out and rip us to shreds. You will find that is not the situation here. Our merfolk neighbours have lived in these lands even longer than we have, and our species have coexisted here for centuries. There is an agreement between our peoples. We need not fear standing upon this surface. I didn't want to trust him, but if he were lying, then the mermaids would have already attacked him, right? Carefully, I tested the stairs, watching with dread as the shadows of merfolk passed below. But to my surprise, these figures did not seem to be paying me any attention. See, you are safe at this juncture, and you are almost ready to pass through the bridge. But first, you must meet your challenge. Look, your challenge arrives. The Kappa pointed over my shoulder, and I turned to follow the direction of his gaze. There, filling the doorway behind me, stood an unnaturally fat and naked Kappa with glazed over eyes. What the fuck is going on? Combat, traveller. Now please, remove your armour. What? No! If you wish to gain passage without dedicating years of your journey to spiritual growth, then you must remove all of your plating and clothing. Only then may your paths join as equals, and may your combat commence. Fuck that! You want me to fight that guy? Then I'm using my sword. That cunt's fucking huge. That is not our way, traveller. Not our way? I don't give a shit about your way. No, our way is wrestling in the nude. You see, we bounce and rub our naked bellies together with much ferocity. Then, if one of us can push the other from the platform and into the water, that one shall be the victor and gifted with passage beyond the bridge. Should you succeed in this challenge, you will be given the same reward, though that is only the beginning of your journey, for you will then encounter further paths beyond our borders, and further bridges, and further nude belly wrestling, for that is the way of the universe. I unsheathed my sword. Nude belly wrestling? That's fucking ridiculous, and I will have nothing to do with it. Tell me, Turtle, what's to stop me from just decapitating all of you
pussies and smashing through the doors of your temple. Or hell, I could just run along the roof or something. I've got all the cards here, dipshit." The elder Kappa reached forward calmly and pinched the tip of my blade with his fingers. Instantaneously, the entire sword then melted into chrome dust and blew off into the river. "Holy fuck!" "Yes, traveller." "Oh boy, that was the only sword I'd brought, and on a side note, I didn't even know that Kappas could do that. Lesson learned, I guess." Angrily, I looked into the river, considering the passing murtards. If Fat Boy over there knocked me in, I would be enjoying an excruciatingly painful death. I then looked back up at Fat Boy. Damn it, he was so huge and so fat, and rubbing bellies with that doofus seemed like a horrible idea. But I didn't have much of a choice. I turned back to the elderly Kappa. "Fine, fucker. I accept your stupid bullshit challenge." "That is good to hear, traveller." The robed Kappa signaled to the fat guy, who then came thumping down the stairs to join us. "Now remove your garments. You must be completely nude for combat." Yeah, I know." I began removing my armor, setting each piece on the floor of the platform. "And remember, traveller, no hands, no feet, no knees, no elbows, no headbutts, just nude bellies. It's all about rubbing nude bellies." "Whatever, man. I got it." I pulled off my boots. "But you swear this is the last of your bullshit? You promise if I belly shove this jack-off into the water, you guys are going to let me cross this bridge?" "Of course, traveller. If you defeat your challenger, then you shall be free to pass through any side of the bridge that you choose." I pulled off my pants, flopping my flaccid dingus out into the open air. "All right then, well, I guess this is it. Let's get this shit over with." I readied myself over on my side of the platform, while Fatty took a wide stance on his end as well. The fucker seemed to have a real low center of gravity, which I assumed should make this battle a piece of cake. Both of us ready to go, the robed Kappa then walked to the top of the staircase before signaling for our combat to begin. I clapped both hands together. My opponent nodded. I then flashed both middle fingers at him while shouting, "I'm the devil that fucked your mother." With explosive energy, I trotted forward, weaving from left to right, and then, when my enemy least expected it, I leapt into the air with my big soft belly before me, arms splayed outward, aiming right for that fuckface's stupid fucking face. Oh yes, my opponent was big, and he was doofy looking too, but he was also quick, and easily dodged my stealthy advance, leaving me screaming like a bitch as I tumbled immediately over the edge of the platform. Holy fuck! I grabbed the corner of the floor, sliding for a few inches and barely holding on for dear life. As the spray of rushing water tickled at my toesies, I could see one of those mermaids pause beneath me, waiting for dinner to arrive. With my other hand, I frantically grabbed a hold of the platform and then did a chin-up before throwing an elbow on the surface and gradually dragging my fat ass back into the game. In case you haven't gathered it yet, I'm not the most spry of adventurers, but I am quick for a fatty, and I do have a dope scruffy beard. But that's not relevant right now. The elder Kappa made another hand signal, and round 2 commenced. This time I proceeded with greater caution. The fat turtle and I circled one another for a few full rotations before things started getting aggressive. I spotted an opening, and like a viper, I struck. I lunged forward with my big fuzzy belly, our mutually chubby guts smacking together like warring buffalo, our sweaty fat skin creating large air pockets that released silly fart noises as we slid our bellies back and forth. No, I could not afford to be distracted by these fart noises. I had to keep my head in the zone. But then, without warning, something awful happened. I felt our wieners touch. Damn it, this was extremely distracting, and I didn't even notice that fat ass was pivoting his foot until it was far too late, and before I could realize what was going on, his engorged turtle tummy was already bouncing over my own with all the force of a charging bull. Luckily, I was able to redirect this force downward, falling to my knees rather than tumbling to my back. This measure saved my life, but it also meant that his little turtle dick went right into my face. So, all in all, I still considered it a net loss. I puckered and turned away, but it didn't help because I could still feel his weird willy tickling the inside of my ear. Fuck. I screamed for him to stop, but he wouldn't do it. He just kept on teabagging me into submission until the robed Kappa finally made a call. Shamed and distraught, I hobbled back to my corner as my opponent did the same, only with significantly less shame and hobbling. This was not going so well for me, but there was no time to assess my weaknesses. The robed Kappa made his hand gesture once more, and this was it. Round 3. I bit my lower lip and tried to focus, bending my knees and bouncing a bit, my flaccid penis swinging around like a droopy little pendulum. Sure, I got lucky the first couple times, but if I made one more major fuck up, I'd be fish food. I needed some sort of strategy. My eyes glanced around at my surroundings, but there weren't a lot of options. Fat Ass and I began circling, each staring into the other's eyes, our footwork playing chess in our mutual periphery. My opponent was extremely patient, but this time, so was I. Gradually, I allowed this distance to drift us towards my quadrant of the platform, and once the time was right, I engaged, slapping the surfaces of our rotund bellies together and making those suction fart noises even louder than before. For a moment, we matched one another in strength, belly upon belly, dick tapping dick, like a pair of bucks warring for the same dough. This stalemate continued for what felt like an eternity, but my opponent knew that he had the upper hand, and eventually my strength began to fade. I retreated back a step, and then another, leaving me only inches from tumbling over the edge. Death, once again, was knocking right at my door. But so was victory. I lifted my foot just above one of the pieces of plate armor that I had piled in my corner of the platform. It was smooth and slick, and before the Kappa could realize what was going on, I placed both feet upon it, falling down low and sliding right between his widely spread legs, the suction of our fat bellies producing a centripetal force that rolled me under him while it twisted him above me. Sure, he may have slapped me in the eyes with his reptile cock, just one last time as he passed over, but ultimately it was still a net gain, as my opponent was nonetheless tossed like a stupid fat bitch into the roaring waves below. Immediately, I rolled over to peer beyond the edge of the platform just as an explosion of blood erupted in the frothing waves. This brutal frenzy of aquatic carnage commenced beneath the surface, and after a few seconds I could see the turtle's fat limbs flailing and severing, some even floating downstream as they twitched in the rushing water. Oh yes, that is right. Winning is truly a beautiful thing. I pushed myself back to my feet and started putting my clothes and armor back on. I kind of expected the old robed Kappa to be stunned by just how badass my victory was, but he showed only the same blasé malaise that he always had, because he's a fucking tool. So I can go now? I asked while buttoning my shirt. Of course, traveller, I shall grant you passage, though, if I might inquire, what exactly is it that you hope to find on the other side of this river? I started buckling my cuirass. I'm looking for the local baron. He owes me something, and I intend to get that shit back. You seek the baron? Fuck yes, I do. Why, you know him? I latched my boots. All who reside within this forest of penises know of the Baron Rapefist, and most know as well of his strange ways. But none of us might claim to truly know the Baron himself. Tell me, do you intend to take back this debt of yours by force? I'd say most likely. That's how these things usually go. Well, if your display today is any indication, then know that despite your impressive gift for robbing nude bellies, you are almost certainly no match for the Baron and his powers. Oh yeah? I started moving up the stairs. Well, I'm sure it'd be a lot easier to kill his dumb face if you hadn't destroyed my sword there, fucko. I stepped past the Kappa. But no, even without my sword, I'm pretty sure that I'll still be killing this asshole. Thank you very much. Haven't you noticed? I'm a fucking badass. Killing spooky bitches is what I do. So what about your faggy little baron makes you think this time will be any different? Weirdly homophobic. The buttstone, replied the old Kappa, with both reverence and dread. And so, dear listeners, ends Chapter 2 of Sir Ballsfart's masterpiece, Sir Ballsfart in the Forest of Penises. Join us again next time when we go to Chapter 3 and continue this magical journey to see if Sir Ballsfart succeeds in getting the butt beads that were stolen from his girlfriend, or if he succumbs to his own toxic masculinity and latent self-hating homophobia. Thank you. Bye.